All right, I got one more video to talk about this whole Parler stuff, but I'm only going to mention Parler. I actually want to talk about something a little bit different, which is Section 230. So let's just jump right in. So I just want to, first off, just thanks the comment from Matt. Matt actually commented on the last week's video on the Parler Postmortem. He actually gave really detailed explanations for people who are unindoctrinated on legal law and the Constitution, not even the articles of Section 2, Articles on Innovation. So it's not the Constitution. This is the Articles on Innovation. This is really for how to sort of understand how to apply legal law and justice to the internet and other things similar to it, like forums and community spaces. So I want to talk about Section 230, which is all about community spaces. Parler technically falls within that line. So the last video kind of runs into this, but I also want to clear a couple things up. So one, Amazon did not remove Parler from AWS. Amazon suspended Parler's account based on moderation concerns. AWS reached out to Parler months ago asking, actually, it was months ago. It was back in the election. Post the election, AWS had concerns on the content on the Parler site, said you'll need to do moderation. The reason AWS reached out to Parler about moderation in the content on the site is because of Section 230. So you'll need to understand Section 230 to really understand everything I was trying to talk about in the last video. So Section 230, it's an article of innovation. It's actually something that was brought into law in the mid-90s. There was a bookstore. The bookstore had books that were sold at the bookstore that anybody could buy. So kids could buy it, adults could buy it, and there was concerns that the certain books that were being sold were indoctrinating children, people of, not popular thought. So people wanted to be able to censor the content that was at the bookstore, and then also go after the bookstore, like sue the bookstore to basically condemn them for having content that was not worthy of all eyeballs. So I'm skating around this because in the YouTube world, if you mention certain topics, you can get flagged as inappropriate. So I don't want to flag this video as inappropriate. So apologies that I'm not just going with the straight, full unfiltered version. I try to live my life filtered just a little bit. So what I'm getting at is the bookstore is not at fault if they happen to have a book that is maybe not worthy of young eyes. So what I'm getting at, as long as the bookstore can moderate the content that's on their shelves when they knowingly know something's not appropriate, then they're out of fault. But if they know that there's a book on their shelves that is like either deemed indecent or I'm not even sure the word I'm looking for, obscene. If the book is obscene, then the bookstore needs to take it off the shelf based on the statute of law. But what I'm getting at is the sort of the web. This actually came into play years later, as the web started being popularized and people cited Section 230 for things like moderation. So because of Section 230, if I am on Facebook or if I own Facebook and the government reaches out to me and says, hey, there is a group on Facebook that is, let's just say inciting violence or has obscene content and videos. I'll pick that up later. But if I have a Facebook group or if I'm the owner of Facebook, I have to moderate the content on Facebook. And you see Facebook actually moderates the content pretty actively. There's been a lot of studies. There's been a lot of, news articles and stuff like that around how Facebook moderates their content. It's something that came in really big once they went public back in 2016, 2015. But they actively moderate the content on there. So that's why you don't see, you're not supposed to see obscene pictures, photos, videos, language. Well, you can see language. I think that's covered. But your Facebook should be actively monitoring what shows up in people's news feeds. What I'm getting at is Facebook, it's by law, they have to actively moderate their own channels. So Twitter, same thing. They should be actively moderating their own channels based on their terms and conditions. So when you sign up for a Twitter account, when you sign up for a Facebook account, Pinterest, whatever, there's a terms and conditions based on what is best practices, what is expected for people who participate in the platform. So if you are in breach of the current terms and conditions, Facebook and Twitter can ask to remove your account, or they can let you know that they're removing your account based on these reasons. Now, they don't have to tell you all the reasons. If you've in violation of terms and conditions, they just can shut it down. AWS reached out to Parler, asked them to please moderate their stuff. Because if you have content on AWS, you have to follow the terms and conditions. They fell outside the terms and conditions based on the conversations that were happening. They gave them a heads up. Fast forward to January, they see a direct correlation into their reach. They actively reached out in November. So if they're reaching out in November and then people are starting to point fingers to like what happened, now AWS is potential. They could be involved in a lawsuit future. So like, I don't fault AWS or Amazon for suspending the Parler account. And again, suspension and cancellation or removal of the account are technically different. Now, you could probably just say that suspension was going to lead to a cancellation eventually. But what I'm getting at is the suspension. There was a heads up that was brought up with the suspension. We asked you in November. We see this thing happen on the 6th. We're going to have to go ahead and suspend for the time being, and y'all can figure it out. Now, I do want to say that Parler since then is now back online through another provider based in... Yeah, so they're back online, and that's great for them. For example, and this is an example that actually Matt actually provided in the last video's comments. If someone walked into Walmart and started screaming profanity, obscenities, it's Walmart's best interest to actually escort those people out of the room or out of the building. And it's something that we've seen with the sort of anti-mask movement here in the US, where folks want to make a stand for not wearing a mask, which, do your thing. But when you impede on my freedom, which is I just want to shop, you can wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask everywhere. You just have to wear a mask in Walmart. It's on Walmart's best interest to remove those folks from the premises, because Walmart, it's a public company. They're taking also government subsidies for building stores in certain locations. So because that reason, is it in their best interest to follow their state mask mandate? So whether your state has a mask mandate or not, it's in their best interest to actually enforce it too as well, because Walmart does not want to be on the wrong side of the law when it comes to being sued, and I don't fault them for enforcing the mask mandate in stores, and I don't fault stores that don't enforce the mask mandate where there is no mask mandate. So just keep that in mind. So when there's terms and conditions, that correlation with Section 230 of folks who want to be a part of a let's just say Parler community, if they're not following within terms and conditions of what Parler needs to set up, that needs to be actively moderated. And one thing I didn't point out, I'd mentioned Parler had a small team. They had a small team of paid employees, but they did ramp up their moderation efforts. So I think the number was 2,000 unpaid moderators. And that's something that's very similar to Reddit. Like Reddit has a bunch of mods as well. Twitch has mods. YouTube has mods too as well, certain channels. But what I'm getting at is they did put a first step into getting that sort of cleaned up, that sort of existed. It just happened to be, it wasn't enough. Like there was a lot of momentum moving towards one way, and being able to clean up every single area and moderate that, it just put them in a really awkward position. So I'm not shedding tears on Parler. I'm not shedding tears on AWS or whatever. I'm just here trying to lay out the facts. Definitely call me out in the comments too as well if these are not facts. I think everybody did a great job of last week of giving me some feedback and stuff like that on the video. Just make sure it's on point as well. And I'm happy to give it a star and a like, as well as you should star and like this video. There's that. I did allude to, I think blockchain actually is up and coming for solving these types of problems. I joked about it, but I actually chatted with one of my friends actually who just launched a blockchain protocol that's supposed to be competing with AWS, which is called The Graph. So if you check out thegraph.com, highly recommend build something on it. I have not yet myself, but I've been tinkering around with the documentation and it looks pretty legit. So maybe in the future streams, follow me on Twitch. I stream every Tuesday and Friday, and I might pull up the graph and see if I can sort of build something under open protocol. So I hope you found this insightful. This was more of a response to the last video, adding more context to Section 230 and moderation. And the future videos will all be focused on automation, developer automation. I'm also going to be building some web apps too as well. I got a couple projects which I'll talk about on Friday in my live stream. So come through, hit like and subscribe. That always helps the channel as well. And have a good rest of your day.